What's up, y'all? I'm back at it once again. Iskosi, a fun day. And, just dropping these last little video mixes before this new year come in. You know, this one had to be talked about. It's a peek through time and look back at Jackson County settler relationship with Indians. This came out June 27, 2011. And this is something good to look at so we can figure out what's really going on. I got a lot of more information about this. The traces of the Indian occupation are growing daily, more and more extinct. Charles D. Veland, 1903. We call them Native Americans these days, but when Jackson County first settlers arrived, the people who had inhabited the region before were simply called Indians. They are mostly Potawatomi, a migratory people, I want to repeat this again, a migratory people who inhabited much of the southern lower Michigan in the early 1800s. Two incidents in the early 19th century shed light on Jackson County Indian past. Both events are well known to early settlers, and both illustrate the uneasy relations that prevailed between the Indians and the white settlers. The Battle of Tippecanoe occurred on November 11, 1811, and helped participate in the War of 1812 a few months later. During the battle, a 35-year-old Potawatomi chief, Whap-ka-zeek, was shot in the leg. Wounded, he awaited his fate. But after the Indians got routed, General William Henry Harrison, soldiers took care of the chief to a field hospital where his leg was amputated. He was rushed back to health. He was nursed back to health, given a crutch and a pony, and allowed to return home. That home was a Potawatomi village near present-day Spring Arbor. When the first white settlers began arriving 20 years later, Whap-ka-zeek was still living there. The village is a site and is memorialized by Falling Waters Historical Park at Hammond and S Crossroads, about a mile southwest of Spring Arbor. The War of 1812 was predominantly a British-American conflict. However, Indians played a key role, especially in the Great Lakes region. The Potawatomi were part of the Shawnee chief Tecumseh's multiple tribal alliance, was sided with the British and fought several battles. At one point, Harrison's army was marching from Indiana to Detroit when two American soldiers, McDougal and Lemp, were captured around the Potawatomi along the St. Joseph Trail. By various accounts, both was burned at the stake in the villages at or near Jackson. Among Jacksonburg early settlers was William R. Deland, whose son, Charles V. Deland, grew up to become one of Jackson County's pioneer newspaper editors. Just before his death in 1903, D. Leland published The History of Jackson County, Michigan, which is a good book and it'll give a lot of information for later videos. He personally knew that many of the Potawatomis in the area, including Whap-ka-zeek, and described the chief as a tall, athletic Indian. The chief was always grateful for the care he received and always a friend of the Mohican mans, Charles Deland wrote. The friendship was critical in the early days of Jackson. The War of 1812 might have been in history by then, but the Indians still had major grievances and the settler encroachment on their land. All they needed was a leader to rally them to stand against the whites. Tecumseh had tried, but met his own death in the War of 1812. In 1832, the Sauk chief Black Hawk appealed to the Potawatomi and other tribes to join the effort to drive the white man from the Indian lands. Of that tense period, William D. Land wrote in an 1852 issue of Jackson Citizen, rumors of excursions and massacres spread throughout the country, gathering terrors as they went, and quite a few people actually moved back to the east, although their fears were occasioned by these stories. The rumor was fed by reports that a local Potawatomi was going to do a great council with the Black Hawk chief. People feared the tribe would take the warpath. Men in the village prepared for trouble, but women took the more practical and domestic approach. They planned a village feast for the Indians, conveniently timing before the men were to leave for the council with the Black Hawks. The chief and the brave all came in, but were very solemn and reserved and not inclined to talk. Charles Deland later wrote, the provisions were served in pails and kettles and baskets, and the Indians feasted all day long. Before departing for the council, the Indians were given meat, bread, and pies. Also, each warrior was given a pint of whiskey. As they started off, old Whap-ka-zeek turned to them and simply said, You good Chimunkin squaws, according to Charles D. Lamb. The Potawatomi met the Black Hawk chief but declined to join his fight. They returned to their village and peace and quiet prevailed. That was Jackson County's last serious Indian threat. Several years later, the tribes were removed under previous terms of treaty. Charles D. Lamb wrote, in 1839 and 1840, the general government effected the removal of most of Potawatomi to the reservation set apart for them near Green Bay in Wisconsin. Units of the 4th U.S. Infantry and the 2nd U.S. Cavalry under Brigadier General Hugh Bradley came to Jackson and encamped on Moody Hill along where Ganson Street now runs and began to gather up Indians. About 1,500 was collected and escorted to Detroit, where they were taken by boats to Green Bay. Charles D. Lamb offered this blunt assessment of the exodus. The removal of the red man abated a great nuisance to the settlers. Although they were not considered dangerous, they were great beggars and visited settlers' cabins without warning, insisting on being fed and lodged on cold winter nights. If accommodated, they were peaceful and orderly. If not, under the influence of liquor. They were vehemently selling and made trouble, and were nonetheless a great nuisance, and the people rejoiced to be rid of them. Now, I'm going to do a video on this story because he writes more in depth on this story. This story is pretty deep, but I just tell you that you know who you're dealing with. Jackson history began on the banks of the Grand River at a present-day Trail Street. 3 men, Captain Alex LeBerry, Horace Blackman, and the Indian guide Peter Wantum, arrived there in time to celebrate America's independence the day of 1829. In his day, 1903, historian of Jackson County, Michigan, Charles Whelan told that celebration was led to the settlement at Jacksonburg. It highlights the presence of the Indians. Captain Alex Savosky made an orientation in English and the Potawatomi. Toasts were drank and pure Wallaboo from the sea. At the close of which the crack of the Potawatomi rifle sounded the applause. The celebration lasted an hour. The reports from the rifle were heard by some Indians not far away who soon appeared on the scene and chose to join in applause at the close of Captain Laverty's oratorial effort in the Indian dialect. Then dinner was served. The Indians brought green corn and potatoes from their field with fish and game, and the party soon was enjoying a banquet. The Potawatomi name of the translation of Awabi Potawatomi means the people of the fire. Some of the renderings of this are Fire Nation, Keepers of the Sacred Fire, and People of the Fireplace, all of which refer to the role of the Potawatomi as the keeper of the council fire and an early alliance with the Obajabi and the Ottawa. Recollections of the First Spring Arbor Village by a Manhattan man in 1914. I think also of 4 old Indian chiefs who lived neighbor to us when we came to Spring Arbor in August 1831. Whap-ka-zeek, Big Jim Sundown, Big Kettle, and Leathernose were their names. Their huts of these old chiefs lived were built on the east side of the road where the land comes down to the marsh. The hut was built close to the marsh, and I have been with father, and sat on old Whap-ka-zeek's lap. From dealing in this history, the Indians were removed from central Michigan in the early 40s to reservations near Fort Howard, Green Bay, Wisconsin. In 1870, I had occasion to go to Fort Howard on business and highly enlightened from the cars when I seen the customs by some Indians. They were surprised and asked and answered in their bushu, who they were, and they replied, "We knew you in Michigan." Nothing you would do, but I must go out from their village. And there I found a large number who recalled me, my father, and my mother. The trip cost me, however, $20 in treats and small souvenirs to old friends of our family. Nowadays, the Potawatomi are prospering in small and large communities in Michigan and several other states in Canada. There are online histories available, including one at this website right here. So, that's crazy. He called them family, but, he took their land away. That's crazy. That's just real crazy. So, this is a Trail of Tears that happened in Michigan that was enforced by the military, kicking the Indians out. Like I said, they wasn't drunk, they wasn't burdensome. So, this is more stuff, coming down. They wasn't drunk, they wasn't burdensome, but they kicked them out, took their land away, and which became today known now as Jackson County, through a Trail of Tears. So they moved from Jackson, had them walk from Jackson to Detroit, and under military watch and stole their land. But like I said, I'm gonna go more in depth about that part because I got stuff on that that's documented history. Anyway, this is a Coast Gift Funding saying much love to y'all. Let's get down with this history. Let's learn what it is. Peace. Also, too, before I go, you know what I'm saying? I want to hint the part they was migratory Indians. Okay? That's a big key. They were migratory Indians, meaning they traveled around. You understand me? They picked up and go. All right? That's a real, real big key coming up in future lessons, future history things. You know what I'm saying? Once again, the Coast Gift Fund Day. Back at it once again. Peace.